Hi,
Super cool.
everyone. I know. Hi, everyone. I am Mileidy Daniel, and I'm here with Iris again. And
I'm Iris.
we're just today we decided we're so laughing, and we're gonna talk about a topic that's gonna sound serious, and it is serious, but I think we're gonna bring some lightness and some help to it. In my eyes,
Exactly.
yeah,
Because if we don't bring, I don't know, if we don't bring jokes or fun to it, then it's like, what? And we just like, what?
exactly.
And then we go again, oh my God.
It can be hot. So today we're gonna talk about suffering. And Iris, like, tell me a little bit. I know that this is part of you work with clients a lot that are in suffering. I do as well. But tell me a little bit for you, what is suffering?
Suffering is trying to run away from pain to
Mm-hmm.
lead into suffering.
We're running away
It's
from the
like
pain.
it's like running away from who you are.
Mhm.
Like this is like I'm trying to make a joke, but I'm really not joking. Like let me get serious.
Mhm.
Um, Suffering is the conditioning mind, the conditioning mind that is so complex, but it's so simple at the same time. It's when you lose yourself in the mix of trying to fill someone else's wants and need and following rules that may or may not apply. So suffering had a place when we were children because it kept us safe, safe physically speaking. Because when we suffer, emotionally speaking, I'm saying I'm not talking about physical suffering. Physical suffering, that's abuse, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's any type of abuse. But when we create this movie in our head and our mind to
Mhm.
keep us from danger. What danger? The danger of when someone yell, the danger of feeling left out, the danger of feeling lost, or so. If we create all this thing, we keep ourselves in the what is that? The cortisone,
Yeah,
the
the
stress
cortisol's pumping.
mode,
Yeah, adrenaline pumping.
in and then what happened?
We ruminate. We stay ruminating into that pain. And I know that you and I have talked about this a lot of times, that pain is inevitable, right? Sometimes pain is inevitable in our lives. Pain is going to come. But when you stay in that pain and when you sometimes try to not look at that pain and find a way out, you start ruminating and you start thinking about more things and making it bigger. And all of that can lead to suffering. And just like you said at the beginning, it's like you're running away from pain and you smack yourself straight into suffering because you're trying not to look at the pain or not to find a way out of that pain because you keep thinking,
Oh,
why me? Or
or
what?
trying
Yeah.
to justify the pain, or trying to if I feel pain, then I won't get surprised when it gets worse. Or
Yes,
is this revolving door? Is this
it
revolving
is.
door that never stops?
And that's what happens with the revolving door of thoughts, of thinking of why me, or like you said, this is supposed to be happening to me. I deserve it. Like mea culpa, right? Like I deserve this happening. And so we keep bringing in this suffering. And for today, I know one of the things that you and I discussed talking about was how do we get out of suffering, right? And how do we take that step out of that suffering and really decide to face. And to me, part of it is radical acceptance. And the concept of radical acceptance to me is accepting your reality without judging it, good, bad, or indifferent. It is
Without
what it
adding a
is.
story to it, just
Without
accept it.
exactly, without adding a story, without making it bigger. Not too long ago, I was talking to somebody and she said, "Oh my goodness, I just got a write up on my job, and that means that I'm going to get fired tomorrow." And I was like, whoa, you're jumping a couple of steps now, right? And it may not be that big, but sometimes we make it big in our heads by thinking in the future this is going to happen. So radical acceptance is being here now, right? I'm right here right now. This happened. I got fired. I got cheated on. I got um somebody passed away. I
Somebody
got
passed away.
divorced. I got divorced. Something, right? Like this happened. Accepting it. Accepting it does not mean saying it's a good thing that it happened. Because no, it's not good. It's painful, right? It happened. But then taking that next step and saying, where am I gonna go from here? Right? And really feeling the feelings, right? Feeling the feelings is important, but
You
not
have to.
keeping exactly. Yes. It's
Have
so important to feel them and then going that next step. If it's something that you can change, what is my next step? What is the next thing that I can do?
And if you can change it immediately. Don't wait, because then that linger into more suffering. The
Ex-
waiting.
yeah, because tomorrow is beautiful, but if we keep tomorrowing our lives, we're never gonna do it.
The thing is that when we leave things undone, like we have something that we need to take care. When tomorrow comes, it's not tomorrow, it's still yesterday. Because until you deal with the things of yesterday, today is yesterday. And yesterday, this is why trauma is so hard to heal. Because as long as your mind is still trapping this energy, this emotional state that something is wrong, you won't be able to move on
Hmm.
because it
Exactly.
sees the day as the same day, as repeating the same sexual abuse or domestic violence or the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that saying, and I have no idea who said it, but there's a saying that says, when you can't control what's happening, challenge yourself to control how you respond to it. And that's where your power is, right? That's where the power is. When you can't control what's happening, let it be like you were saying, somebody is abusing you. And in the moment, that person's bigger than you, stronger than you, and they're hitting you or whatever. You can't control that's happening. How are you going to react to it? What's going to be your next step after? And
It's
I
going to be
know
your
that,
next.
when we talk about domestic violence and things like that, and you have that cycle of abuse, there's always that moment where you can break the cycle. And as humans, we're so cyclical in our lives and we're so cyclical in what we do because, in a way, it keeps us breathing, right? If I was breathing
Yeah.
yesterday, if I do the same thing today, more than likely I'm going to keep breathing. We know that that's not always the case, but that's the mentality. That's the mentality. So making sure what step can I take next to break a cycle if I'm falling into a cycle. And I know for me as a therapist and as a coach, one of my favorite things to do is to show people their cycle. What cycle are you falling into in your thinking and in your behaviors? Because once you realize what cycle you're on, it's that, again, it's that saying, until you realize it, it's unconscious. Once you realize it and you can make it conscious and you make it conscious, then you can start taking action to change.
I think the biggest thing is that we as people, we are waiting for the feeling to change, for the feeling of fear, for the feeling of uncertainty, for the feeling of, oh, what's going to happen? And we don't take the actions to make that change because we're waiting for that feeling to change. And the feelings are not going to change. And it might get even worse until you make the decision. Life is a
Mhm.
decision, love is a decision, not a feeling. And it's a decision that is always moving, is moving forward. It doesn't exist in the past.
Mhm.
It cannot, so I mean, it doesn't survive there. Only it's here.
Yes.
So, like, I had this client. She has an intense fear of her husband in every which way form that you can imagine. And she knows what she needs to do. But the fear of what is going to happen it's
Oh,
holding her hostage in her own
mhm.
mind.
That prediction. And I talk about prediction all the time, right? When you predict, you know what's going to happen in the future. And sometimes what's happening now could even be worse, right? And sometimes in your head, you make it so much bigger. But what's happening now could even be way worse than if you actually take those steps and you make that change, and you, like you were saying, just moving forward. And that fear's not going to go away until you do it. I think back on,
You take an action.
yeah,
It
until you
won't
take
go
action.
away.
I think about my kids. I was talking to my daughter's a little bit scared of going in the garage. And so today I was like, okay, you can get whatever. I can remember what we were talking about. And I said, okay, we'll go ahead and get that, but you got to get this for me from the garage. And she was like, and that, that fear, I could tell the fear had hit her. There hasn't been any trauma or anything. I think it's just the dark in the garage, right? So she she came out, and she came and she got whatever she got, and she went back, and she's like, "Mommy, was fine." I said, "Yes." In the moment, sometimes we put in our head like that horrible thing. When I was little, I was scared of the dark, right? I was scared to sleep in the bed by myself for whatever reason. Even though I slept right next to my sister, because the room was together, was just two different beds, but I wanted to sleep in her bed because I don't know what's going to happen in my bed, right? And so once you take that step and you make it, you realize that a lot of those fears were just inside of you, and were just a story that you were telling yourselves. Now, it's so, to me, that radical acceptance piece that we were talking about, trying to understand, to me also, that two things can be true at the same time. Something can be unfair, but it also happened, right? So
Exactly.
it may be unfair that this happened to me, right? But it happened. So
It
what am I going
happened.
to do next? Breaking that situation into pieces, right? And saying, okay, and I'm going to give the write-up situation, right? I got a write-up. Why did I get the write-up? What was the behavior? Is that something I can change? Right? If, let's say, I really feel it was an unfair write-up, what can I do? Can I go to HR? Can I write a letter? Right? If it was something, and Iris, you and I were talking about this before, right? If it's an opinion that somebody has of you, you know, Iris, I really don't like your hair.
Okay.
Okay, exactly. That's your
Okay.
opinion of me. It doesn't have to be my opinion of me. So
Exactly.
I can accept that you don't like my hair, and that's fine. But also know that in my eyes, I like my hair. And that's fine. Two things can be
You have
true at the
beautiful
same time.
hair.
Oh, thank you. And you too.
Oh,
But
thank you. Thank you. You just reminded me of this client that he said he walked down the stair and heard his grandmother talking about him. The
mhm,
rage, the
mhm,
rage. He broke wall. He punched wall. He broke his hand
mhm,
literally because his grandmother was talking about him. And I'm like, where does that come from?
mhm,
Because your grandmother has the right to talk about whatever she wants to talk about. You don't have to like it, you don't have to accept it, but she can talk about whatever she wants. Well, she loves you, and you know this. And if
mhm,
she was saying something in regards to you or something about you, and
mhm.
so it's this mentality of what does that mean? Because that also comes from that same place of suffering,
Yeah.
always expecting that lack of trust, that lack of self-acceptance and self-esteem at the same time. Because when you're suffering, everything is damaged. Everything is
Off kilter.
compromised. Everything is like everything's out the door. Like
Mhm,
because if you're suffering, your mind cannot be at peace. Like you cannot be at peace if you're suffering. There's no such thing as I'm happy if you're suffering.
yeah.
And I carried myself a lot and a long time thinking that I was happy, a long time.
Mhm.
So it goes
Until you
back
realize it.
exactly. So how fragile are we that we are so impacted when someone talks about us, like you said?
Yeah. And that's a big thing sometimes with people, and with um I would say teens, but I think it happens at many different ages as well, where you're so impacted because somebody said something about you. And it's, I always go back to a long time ago. My oldest son would tell my daughter, "You're a potato." and she would start crying, "Mommy, I'm not a potato," right? And I would be like, "Of course you're not a potato." But, hearing that was so rough for her. And whenever I hear somebody saying, "So and so said this about me, and that's not who I am," and they're really suffering from that, from saying and hearing that, it always makes me think back to, "You're a potato." Like, we don't have to accept that. We don't have to accept that. We're not a
Your
potato, right?
butterfly.
We don't have to accept that piece of us, you know? I think with suffering, and we were talking a little bit about, domestic violence and things like that. And yes, stopping the cycle is important. With domestic violence itself, you do have to take
We
precautions.
have to.
You
We
have to
have
take
to.
precautions, and it's so important in those situations. There's phone numbers that, and I'll put them on the on the, oh my
The
goodness, I forgot
link.
the name of it. The link, yeah, I'll
The
put the
link.
link, to different places you can go to if you're suffering domestic violence. Please definitely stop the cycle, but do it safely, because you do have to think about your safety and the safety of your pets and your children, things like that. But you also don't have to stay in that suffering. And I think that's so important. You don't have to stay in that suffering, but you have to do it in a safe way. So reach out, because there's so many people that can and will help you and want to help you in these situations. And I think that's so, so important,
Yes.
because
Yes. You're not alone. You're not
yeah, you're not
alone. Like
no.
like you are not alone if you are um experiencing and you don't deserve it. No one does. Like no
Mhm.
one has the right to mistreat you. No one has the right to treat you in any other way that is not with respect.
Yes.
And they don't have to love you. They don't have to love you. They just have to respect you. And if there's no respect, then they don't deserve your time or your energy or anything. Anything.
Mhm.
So but it
Yeah.
goes back to what we deserve, what we how we value who we are. It goes
Yes.
back to not knowing who we are because we value ourselves in accordance to what we were conditioned to view us as a living being. We were and please know if you're listening to this is not you doing something against you. This is uh, I put myself as an example. I truly thought I was happy. I truly thought I was oh my god, they're all going until until I faced myself with my own self, my own fears.
Mhm.
That I was forced to look deep inside, like really deep inside. What I'm saying is, if you are not happy, if you are suffering, then something is I mean, you have the power to change that by breaking the circle.
By breaking yourself. Yes. Accepting. And that's why I go back to radical acceptance, right? Not going into that, "Woe is me. This is going to be my life forever." It does not have to be your life forever. So accept where you are. There's not going to be a knight in shining armor. There's not going to be somebody who's going to come and save you per se if you don't decide to take that step and go look for that part, right? It makes me think back, because sometimes when I say radical acceptance, people think, well, it's just accepting that that's what it is. And no, that's not radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is accepting it is what it is, but then what am I going to do? Right. And it makes me
You
think
do.
of Viktor Frankl, who is a psychologist, a psychiatrist, who lived through World War II, and he was in Auschwitz, right? And he was a prisoner in Auschwitz, and he came up with beautiful logotherapy. And he really decided to look at his experience from a different perspective. And that's actually, I mean, he says it himself in his book, that's what kept him alive. Anne Frank, Mandela, Martin Luther King, these are people who radically accepted where they
Jesus.
were. Jesus, right? Radically accepted what was happening and said, these are the steps I can take. These are the steps I
Exactly.
can take to help, to better me, to better my situation, and to stay alive. When you
To
think of
stay
Viktor
alive.
Frankl and Frank, to stay alive, you know? But also, like, the amount of changes that those people made in the whole world, when you really decide to look into what they wrote and what they said, the amount of positivity and love when they were in situations that, I mean, were they unfair? Yes. Was it things that should not have been happening to them? Yes.
Yes.
But they were able to take that and say, okay, I'm here. There's nothing I can do about this. What can I do from now? And
Why did that happen?
mhm,
Because they accepted the moment as it was or as it is, and then chose love by deciding, by deciding.
mhm,
It's a decision that you are going, because we are the one that have the power to decide how we are going to interpret what we live, what we experience, what happened around us.
yeah,
We have that power.
we should have. I love that.
But if a mind is distorted, and a lot of us have our mind distorted at some point or another, right, in our life, then it's hard to see you as you are, and you believe the things that has been given to you or are just there, right? Because it's what you learned. If your mind learned through suffering to the to the your self mechanism was built more through suffering than through peace, then that's your default
Mhm,
behavior. That's your default
setting.
place to go whenever something happens. That's what you look for
Mhm,
automatically. And it goes back, we accept the behavior we think we deserve at an unconscious level. And
mhm.
until we break out of it, like you said, breaking the circle, until
Breaking
we
that cycle.
see it, until we perceive it, then we'll be suffering until we break it. And then suffering ends. Like
Yes.
those people, because they
Exactly.
accepted it, looked at it, and they transformed it.
Exactly. And it's like stopping the blaming, right? And so many times I hear this, well, this happened to me because when I was little, this and this happened, and my parents did this and that. And yes, it's true, right? We know that that's true, but now you're here.
You
So
cannot undo the past.
we can keep blaming mom and dad, and we can keep blaming this and that happened to me. But what is that taking you?
Exactly.
Staying in that past. So that's that radical acceptance piece. And then moving on. And what happens is rumination, that rumination of, well, this is what always happens,
Uh,
blah, 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 kind of starts circling into, once you start radically accepting, you go, yes, that happened. And now I can do this. And now the rumination starts coming into solutions, which is my favorite time. And I do it when I journal sometimes when things are happening with me and I'm just overwhelmed. I start journaling, and it's so funny because my journaling is always like super sad and depressing, and then all of a sudden it starts turning into positive. It's like so delving into a positive world, because that's how my mind just starts switching and my rumination starts switching when I decide to take that step and accept. And so I just accept, I write, because that's my way of letting things go, is by writing for me. And then it starts turning into positive, into this is what I can do, this is what life is. And it's my favorite time, right?
that
So
is so cool.
yeah, take that time. And I think it's so important to radically accept, analyze, and then start thinking of those solutions. That to
The
me is the way
solution.
out of suffering.
So exactly. And one thing about suffering, because the part that you mentioned is really good. That was really good. I mean, everything's really good. But one thing about suffering is that once it gets into your system, yes, those things happen. Like Jesus got killed.
Mhm,
Like you got beat up. You got sexually assaulted when you were 6 years old. All those things happened, and you cannot undo what that it happened. And that person, and you might be expecting or waiting or wishing that this person will come into your life now and say I'm sorry, or fix it, and you think you're going to feel better, and it's not. It's
mhm,
not. Temporarily you might feel a little bit of kind of like, okay, satisfaction, because someone recognized your fault, right, or you're doing or whatever. But once it's in you, you are the only one that can heal that part of you. No one can go into your mind and say to your mind, now this that happened when you were 3, and I'm not dismissing what that it was terrible and you
mhm,
didn't deserve. The thing is, this is what makes you a unique human being, because you and only you. And this is amazing at the same time, because imagine if you are at the mercy of someone else's decision to come and
Behaviors.
save you.
Yes, behaviors. Yeah.
So this is an amazing gift that we have, that even though it was painful, the moment we decide to radically accept
Mm-hmm.
what it was or what it is, and then ask ourselves, as you said, ask ourselves, what can we do about this? If we can, we do it immediately. If we cannot, then accept it, transform it,
Mm-hmm.
transform it, because until we do this, then the suffering just stay lingering and lingering and lingering, because it's now it's up to you, because you are 100% responsible to the way you are going to interpret what you just experienced. And it cannot be otherwise, because this is your power.
Yes. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like you said, I think it's beautiful that that is our power. We can take that step for ourselves.
Yeah,
And I love that it's nobody else's responsibility to do it either. And
exactly.
remembering that to me is one of the most important parts. It's nobody else's responsibility to do that.
No, no, which it
Just to,
goes back to becoming aware of what is and what is not, like a healthy relationship, for instance. Because if you're listening to this, most likely you are grown up. A healthy relationship does not take your freedom away. A healthy relationship is supportive, is loving, is caring, even if it's not in agreement with what you think or how you view the world, or your decision, right? Doesn't
Mhm.
mean the person have to stay with you, but it doesn't mean the person have to belittle you, or to dismiss you, or to disrespect you, or to make you feel like you are not enough.
Mhm.
I hope the relationship only means that this person respect you and love you as you are, and doesn't want you to change. And if there's something different, I think I want to be for.
So hard.
And if it's something that you think you could do better, then you do it and you ask for help. But do not be in a relationship that hinders your freedom, that tells you cannot go out with friends, that demand what clothes you're going to wear or not, that you don't feel emotionally safe to express yourself because the other person is going to get upset or offended. That's not a healthy relationship, and you don't deserve that.
Beautiful.
However, if you want a healthy relationship in your life, then you have to build one with yourself and have a wonderful relationship with you. Become the love of your life. And
Mhm.
suffering, that doesn't mean that life is not going to happen, because then we have this idea that, let's say we go to a therapist or a coach, or we heal those parts of us, that we're no longer going to feel sad or feel angry or feel lost.
Those are emotions. And emotions, and that's why I think we started in the perfect place of pain is going to happen because pain is an emotion and it's going to happen, but it doesn't have to turn to suffering. And I think
Exactly.
that's what's important is remembering that feelings are, period. And the less we judge them, the quicker they'll move away. For those, and I hate when people say bad emotions. I don't think there's
I
any
don't
bad
hate it
emotions.
when that I hear those terms. I
You don't
hate
like
it.
bad
Like,
emotions.
there's no such thing as bad emotions.
They all have a place. And when we decide to really accept and know where they're coming from, we have a conversation with our own self, with our own emotions, and
Exactly.
it's beautiful. Oh,
Exactly. And
Iris.
pain as guidance. Pain our guidance. If you're feeling pain, stop and ask, what is this pain showing me? What is this pain showing me? When you are happy, do you stop and say, why are you happy? You laugh, right? You enjoy whatever it is.
In the moment.
And happy doesn't mean that you don't feel sad. You could feel sad and be happy.
Yes.
Like, like,
Yes.
like, like, but emotions are your guidance. If someone is punching you or someone is belittling you, it's good that you feel sad. It's good that you feel angry. Because otherwise, how do you know that someone is not for you, or that someone is not treating you the way you deserve? How do you know when you are doing something wrong if you don't feel uncomfortable?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Iris, of course, right? It's kind of, I always go back to a physical thing. If you did not feel pain when you were touching the hot stove, it wouldn't tell you to take your hand out the way. And that's
Exactly.
why we feel feelings. So it's okay to feel them. It's okay to feel them. And when we do feel them, to recognize them. Because when we decide to say, no, I'm not sad, no, I'm not depressed, no, I'm not hurt, that's when it turns into suffering. That's when it turns into not being authentic. So
Exactly. And then
authenticity.
you lose yourself, and then you don't know where you are, and you're just following a script. A
Yeah.
script that the script will end.
Mhm.
How long can you carry it? Because life will force you to look at yourself. And one thing, just in case we're going to finish this really soon, because I think we went overboard here. But one thing, all your relationships are a copy or a mirror of who you are. If your relationships are not what you wish to have or what you vision for yourself, the relationship in your life, then you have to look at yourself. Because no one can come into your life view that does not match your energy.
Yeah, your frequency. Oh,
Exactly.
you
So it goes back to responsibility.
Mhm.
It goes back to the way we're interpreting what we lived, and what we do, what we have accept in our lives. Like that idea, oh, maybe he'll change tomorrow, or she changed tomorrow, or it's, oh, maybe I can do this if I do this different, maybe. No, we need to stop that. We need to start. We need to begin the responsibility, accepting the responsibility that no one is here to save us. People are here to show us who we are, and to help us grow, or to help us expand. That's
Yes.
it. Happiness is your job, my job.
Happiness is, yes, we are responsible for our own happiness. I love it. And I think this is a great place to end. So thank you. Thank you so much, Iris.
Thank you.
And for everybody who's listening, tell us, comment on the comments. What did you think about this? What are some topics you want us to talk about? You have two coaches dash, therapists dash, moms dash,
Dash,
people.
friends, dash, women, dash wants to help the world heal.
We do want to help the world heal. So what do you want to learn about? What are some things you want us to just talk about? And like, comment, share, subscribe, all these wonderful things that I keep forgetting. But thank you so much for listening. And we love you, and thank you so much for supporting our
Yes,
channel.
we love you. We love you a lot. Like, we love you so much. Free yourself from suffering. Stop
Free
the
yourself.
struggle.